and save your minarchy. No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
I'm Dorita Klinger, an attorney at McIntyre Law. The decision to hire an attorney after you've been injured is important. The decision on who to hire is even more important. At McIntyre Law, we will settle a case if the offer to our client is fair. Partial justice is no justice at all. At McIntyre Law, we are committed to obtaining full justice for our clients. Contact McIntyre Law at 405-917-5200 or visit us at mcintyrelaw.com.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into KLRNradio.com's Sunday night lineup. This week, kicking things off, one of the newest shows in our lineup, Corin's Reading Room, hosted by none other than Corin Nimick himself. And without further ado, here he is.
Good morning, Vietnam. Just kidding. Great movie, though. Almost as good as this book I'm going to go over with you. Welcome to KLRN Radio. Thank you so much for hosting me. Great guys over there. And if anybody has a fantastic idea for a podcast, we connect up with them and reach out and see if it matches what their lineup is like. And also the music, the opening music was by Mose Jackson. Thank you, Mose, for your wonderful music. Tonight's very interesting book that I get to go over with you is by one of my favorite philosophers and authors and lecturers. He has, I can't even count how many lectures he has. You can find them on YouTube and Rumble and other places, but it's Manly P. Hall. And the book is, let me try and get rid of the reflection there. There we go. The Lost Keys of Freemasonry. And it's not written backwards when you get it online, you order it yourself. It will will be correct, so you can read it. But Manly P. Hall is an incredible philosopher who has written many, many books. Every single one of them is worth reading. This one, which is a thin little tome here, and it's a pretty quick read. So those of you who get daunted by thick books, this is a great starter for you. It's not too heady, and it's got a lot of incredible um, spiritual uplifting information in it. Hello, everybody who's on the chat there. Thanks so much. I see KZ's up there, and Carlo, and Raptor, and Elihu, and Immortal, and Jay Packard. All the folks, thank you so much for joining in. The numbers were really pretty good last Sunday, and I know that this is Mother's Day, so some of you might be busy, but I welcome you all. And again, Manly P. Hall, I've been inspired by him since the 90s when I first got a hold of some of his books. And actually, at one point, he founded a group called the Philosophical Research Society, and it still exists. The beautiful building that it's in, that I'm not sure if he had it built himself for it. I'm pretty sure he did, but it houses his personal library there. It's got a great lecture hall, and they also do courses and classes on different subjects. I took a few courses there myself. One very interesting one on the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or the Barton Thodol. And I recommend, if anybody lives in the Los Angeles area, it's in Los Feliz. Look it up, go by, pay a visit. They have an incredible bookstore there. And also, if you're into tarot, he has his own tarot deck, which I've heard is one of the best. I'm not much of a person for tarot myself, but it's been recommended by many people who I know are. So this particular book, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry, it kind of goes into a bit about the more esoteric side of the degree work when you join Freemasonry. I think quite a number of the books that I'm going to be starting out with on Sundays will likely be centered around Masonry and the philosophy, because I think that some people have heard of Freemasonry, but they don't really know too much about it, except there's some secret handshakes and we wear like a little bib around our waist, right? The lambskin apron, which is a symbol of purity. But how I do this, for those who are new, hey there, Kitty Lillis, and Alan is in. Is that Alan? Alan Ray is in there, and so how I do this, I just kind of go through and I go over. You can't see that, it's too bad, but I go over just little areas that I've highlighted or outlined, and read them, and I'll read through them, and I'll stop and pontificate and all that jazz. But let's dive into The Lost Keys of Freemasonry by Manly P. Hall. In the introduction, I'm going to skip the forward for now. It's and you can read that yourself if you order the book. But in the introduction here, it says, a religion is a divinely inspired code of morals. A religious person is one inspired to nobler living by this code. The code is his source of illumination. There is in religion a wonderful point of balance where the materialist and spiritist meet on the plane of logic and reason. The great work, the liberation of the spirit and intelligence from the three-dimensional prison house of ignorance, superstition, and fear. Right? So the great work is, if anybody's interested in alchemy, there's the great work is the discovery of the philosopher's stone. Now, in alchemy, when you could say that in practical alchemy, if they're actually trying to create different metals and chemical creations, the goal of alchemy would be to turn base metals into gold. Now, in what you could call speculative alchemy, the great work finding the philosopher's stone, the transmutation of the base metals into gold is an analogy for transitioning from a very materialistic mindset into a more spiritualized state of being, where you take what's the base metal, which is the lower self, you could call it, and you transmute all of the tendencies towards the material world into a more spiritual experience. So when they're talking about the religious aspect of it, many religions give a guideline of principles for us to be able to apply to our daily living. And this certainly creates a much more tempered experience in life, without so much violence and chaos and all of these things. Now, granted, we can all agree that religion has caused a lot of wars around the world. So, that's not the topic of this conversation. But to apply religious principles to your life, no matter what your religion is, can create a better outcome for our daily living. Um, it goes on to say, God is the self in all things, the inspiration and the thing inspired. God was the Word, and that the Word was made flesh. The glory of that Word is within the soul of Himself. So again, we get into this idea of the Word of God. In the Old Testament, the word Yahweh, or the Tetragrammaton, the four-letter name of God. We talked a little bit about it last week, but this is an unpronounceable word. It's unspeakable. In fact, the word Yahweh is really a breathing. It's the intake of breath is Yah, and then the out breath is Weh. So it's Yahweh, Yahweh. So it's a breathing. It's the first breath that you take when you were born. And there is the theory out there that in the Holy of Holies, where the sacred word, the true name of God, is spoken by the high priest. I think it's once a year or whatever, that nobody actually knows what that word really is. So, when we talk about the word, it's more of an allegory for that transmutation of the lower self to the higher self, where you have this incredible realization of the oneness of all things. And I find that quite interesting. So it goes on. We are here to gain balance in a sphere of unbalance, to slay the dragon of our own animal natures. So the dragon, you could say, would be that the ego self, which desires for self gratification, and to do things for yourself alone, or to get something out of an experience that is truly just for yourself. This, I think that many of us can understand that in a way, when you find somebody out there who's extremely selfish and self-serving. That is the dragon. That's the lower part of our nature that drives us to do things that screws up everything. I've certainly done it plenty of times in my life, and had to reflect back and realize that my behaviors were self-serving. And you gotta tuck the tail, apologize, and keep it moving, right? But so it says, man, creature of attitudes and desires, and servant of impressions and opinions, cannot, with the wavering unbalance of an untortured mind, learn to know that which he himself does not possess. So, meaning that, you can't, there's some things in life that you can't necessarily understand intellectually, but you have that aha moment, that incredible experience. I talked a little bit last week about the communion with nature, about getting back in touch with that unspoken language that the universe is expressing through its creation, through plants alone. Going out, looking at trees, at the magnificent state of their structure, and each one is different and unique. And it's and that in and of itself, we can apply to our own idea of growth. We're all very individual, and that individuality can be a trapping, but it can also be the very thing that frees you from a lot of trappings. But let's see here. Where was I? Okay, so truing the rough ashlar into the perfect stone. What more can any creature ask than the opportunity to prove the thing he is, the dream that inspires him, the vision that leads him on. Man is given by nature a gift, and that gift is the privilege of labor. We are here to learn, break the strangling bonds of limitation. Every soul is engaged in a great work, the labor of personal liberation from the state of ignorance. The world is a great prison, its bars are the unknown, and each is a prisoner until at last he earns the right to tear these bars from their moldering sockets and pass, illuminated and inspired, into the darkness which becomes lighted by that presence. The temple where God dwells, where the spirit of the great truth illuminates the shadows of human ignorance. So, in in a sense, like in Freemasonry, the idea is to take the tools of a Mason and apply them uh, to the building of the temple of the mind. So everybody's mind has a landscape, and what is that landscape? Is it a chaotic mess? Is it, a beautiful green pasture? Is it, endless stars and abundant space? And inspiration. That this is what this is suggesting that we want to try to achieve is becoming disconnected from the solely materialistic world, so that we can reconnect with that higher plane of pure divine thought and inspiration and creativity, and in that space we can draw from that source, bring it closer to the self, and redefine who we are as an individual, and how that expresses itself in life is how we treat other people, how we take care of our space, what we do with our spare time. These kind of activities that, from an outside perspective, somebody else might look and say, oh, well, yeah, that person seems really nice and really cool, and they don't realize that it's a wholly created expression that's very locked into a state of consciousness and being that is observant, sensitive, and kind, not only to itself, which is the most important, so that you can, if you're kind to yourself, generally speaking, you'll be kind to others. But the truth illuminates the shadows of human ignorance. It's very Buddhistic in that expression, that when we allow all the dust to settle in life, and we're just totally relaxed and calm, and suddenly we can see everything very clearly. It's greetings, my brother, there to Mount Helicon 2077. Boy, that's a long way down the road. I hope I live that long. But so when we have in darkness is that state of mind where we don't have a connection to some type of higher power, or some type of philosophical gem that guides us, and living in that type of ignorance, we can see in how violent the world is, how crass the world is, how people treat each other in life. All of this stems from living in that darkness of ignorance, not realizing that every action we take has an opposite and equal reaction out there in the universe. And the more negative that we are in life to other people and to the universe, that's that individual is going to live that way on the inside too, and I'm sure it doesn't feel very good. But so this person who lives in darkness, right? So they wander in darkness, seeking light, failing to realize that the light is in the heart of the darkness. But seldom does man understand the mystery that has been unveiled. He tries weakly to follow in the steps of those who have attained, but all too often finds the path more difficult than he even dreamed. So he kneels in prayer before the mountain he cannot climb, and whose top gleams the light which he is neither strong enough to reach nor wise enough to comprehend. And then it says, I underline the flaming letters in the sky. And again, this is this attribute of the word, and the word made flesh, so to speak. But so the mountain is what it is that we're trying to climb, so that we can reach a higher state of mind with a better point of view, right? And I think that is what we all strive for, in a way. So life is the span of time appointed for accomplishment. And when you think of that, what is accomplishment in this amount of time that we actually have on earth? Some people may feel like that they're not fully accomplished or haven't achieved many things that they wanted to do in life. But are they kind? Are they generous? Are they soft spoken? Are they gentle with the lovely creatures of God's earth? Are they uh, are are they giving as much as they can in way of loving thy neighbor, so to speak? And because these, to me, these are the greatest accomplishments that we can really ask for, is how we behave in life and how do we treat others. Who we are or what we do for a living, that's just the labor of life. And no matter what it is you do, if you do it with love and you do it honestly, generally speaking, you'll work your way up into a higher position, no matter what it is. Delicious coffee. Lavazza. So we'll go into some Masonic stuff here. I'm still just in the introduction too, but it starts pretty soon. A Mason is a builder of the temple of character. He is the architect of a sublime mystery, the gleaming, glowing temple of his own soul. He realizes that he best serves God when he joins with the great architect in building more noble structures in the universe below, building more noble structures to the glory of the universal God. Above all, our relationship, he recognizes the universal brotherhood of every living thing, for he is the comrade of all created things. His spirit is a glowing, gleaming jewel, which he must enshrine within a holy temple built by the labor of his hands, the meditation of his heart, and the aspiration of his soul. No truer religion exists than that of world comradeship and brotherhood for the purpose of glorifying one God and building for him a temple of constructive attitude and noble character. So that pretty much says it all. I probably should have just read that instead of pontificating on my own. But it says, in the gleaming flame of cosmic light, born by the dark clouds of not being, two great forms appeared, and a mighty voice thrilled eternity, each sparkling atom pulsating with the power of the Creator's word. So that's similar from Genesis. Let there be light, and there was light. And what is the word? What is the command? And I think that all of us have that experience at some point in our lives where we feel like something greater than us is dictating what our next action really should be. And that's where the ego comes in, because if we're in a lower condition of mental attitude and emotional maturity, generally speaking, we're going to behave on that level. And without some sense of a higher purpose, we can be trapped like that. And I think that's why this book is so interesting to me, because it very simply points out that there is a deeper path that we can all take, no matter what we're doing in life, no matter what our burdens are, no matter how tired we are, no matter how exhausted we are, no matter how many bills we have to pay, no matter what our relationships are like, our relationship with ourself and our relationship with whatever our idea of a higher power is. And Masonry, they call the God the grand architect of the universe. And I love that saying. And so when we connect up with that higher sense of self, I think that can help us to tamper our more bristly, scared porcupine kind of side of us. You know what I mean? Um, so it says here, from these shall you build, without the sound of hammer or the voice of workmen, the temple of your God, eternal in the heavens. To you I give the glory of work, and here ordain you as the builder of my house. Unto you I give the word of the master builder. Unto you I give the tools of the craft. Unto you I give the power that has been vested in me. Be faithful unto these things. Bring them back when you have finished, and I will give you the name known to God alone. So mote it be. In the divine solitude, he labored with no voice to cheer, no spirit to condemn, alone in the boundless awe, with the great chill of the morning mist upon his brow, but his heart still warm with the light of the Master's word. O Master of workmen, great architect of the universe, my labors are not finished. Why must they always remain undone? Um, that just, it strikes in me the desire to want to just not necessarily have some kind of solidified plan for the outcome of my life. I have um, thoughtful desires, you could say, for certain outcomes that I'd like to see for my life, certain projects I'd like to do, certain paintings I'd like to paint, certain poems I'd like to write, certain things like that. But again, the ultimate outcome is how do we design our behavior to be as close to what someone might say is based on divine principles, rather than lowly materialistic desires and actions. And I think that even just having this inkling of thought, waking up in the morning of like, okay, I know that it's just another, Groundhog's Day. Everything's going to be the same. It's just that big rat race and rigmarole of, jumping in the car, sitting in traffic, getting to the same cubicle, doing the same job, answering the same phones, eating the same lunch, but all of those things can be done as if it's a brand new unit of time. And there's a way of kind of mastering the moment, you could say, where instead of feeling like it's a hamster or gerbil wheel that you're in life, that every morning can be a new way of experiencing that day. Even if you're going to the same job, how do you say hello to people today? How do you deal with problems today that you didn't deal with, you dealt with differently the day before? How can you master that day's labor and make it worthwhile, where at least when you go home, you feel like you were a good person, you did the best job you could do at whatever it is you do, and you treated everybody with respect. I think that's just so important in life. Around me stand the ruins of my temple, which I must leave. In thy name I have labored, and in thy cause I die, a faithful builder. And that's just talking about the end of life, when we all pass through the veils that we cannot see. That at that time, that nobody, I think, is going to pass on thinking that they've done it all or achieved every goal that they ever had set for themselves. So we're all going to reach the veils and pass through them at some point with things that we have left to do. But if you believe in reincarnation, like Manly P. Hall does, you can do them in the next incarnation, right? Save them for the next lifetime. um, and ongoing in this chapter titled "In the Fields of Chaos," it says, "No more shall I speak until ye have found and raised my beloved son, and have listened to the words of my messenger, and with him as your guide have finished the temple which I shall then inhabit." And in the sense, this is again talking about the temple built within, and the idea that we want to create a landscape of the mind, that the idea of God or our relationship with a higher power, whatever, in a landscape that entity would want to live in. Does God want to live in a chaotic mess, full of misemotions and anger and frustration and depression and all of this? So it's, if we seek out that kind of restructuring of our own internal world that we all live in. I mean, in reality, when you think about it, everything that we're seeing and looking at it's all just reflections that through light reflecting off of its surface is then recalculated in our minds, and we develop an internal picture of it. So it's not that the eyes are necessarily seeing these things, they're reflecting these things back into the mind, and the mind is interpreting them. And then we're like, oh wow, look, there's a microphone, there's a computer, it's kind of a bluish gray, there's a white desk, oh, there's a bottle of water. But in that internal landscape, it can be perceived as almost anything. We've given these objects names and values, and without the names, how would we necessarily know what they are? We could describe what they are, but by naming things, it makes it easier to understand the universe that we're in. It's pretty interesting. So chapter 1, the eternal quest. And again, I just read excerpts, right? So, powers unseen and unrecognized mold the destiny of those who consciously and of their own free will take upon themselves the obligations of the fraternity. Freemasonry is not a material thing, it is a science of the soul. Only those who see in it a cosmic study, a life work, a divine inspiration to better thinking, better feeling, and better living, with the spiritual attainment of enlightenment as the end, and with the daily life of the true Mason as the means, have gained even the slightest insight into the true mysteries of the ancient rites. The true lodge of the Mason is the universe. In most Masonic lodges, they have an image of the stars and the universe above on the ceiling there, and then the checkered tile on the floors is symbolic of the darkness and the light that we experience when we're going through life. We have moments of darkness where we have to make the right choices, and in order to get through those successfully, and then the moments of lightness, which are the moments that are joyful and wonderful to experience. And so it's how we navigate the two and still come out joyful is the art. When this is done and the mysteries of the universe unfold before the aspiring candidate, then in truth, he discovers that what Freemasonry really is. Its material aspects interest him no longer, for he has unmasked the mystery school, which he is capable of recognizing only when he himself has spiritually become a member of it. The universe itself, which is the greatest of all schools, deals with the unfolding of the threefold principle. The same three kings. They are not personalities, but principles, great intelligent energies and powers, which in God, man, and the universe have charge of the molding of cosmic substance into the habitation of the living king, the temple built through the ages, first of unconscious and then conscious effort on the part of every individual who is expressing in his daily life the creative principles of these three kings. So God, man, and the universe. We're here in between, these things trapped between living this holy physical experience of life, filled with emotions and the trappings of the physical universe, our desires, our wants, what we can't have, but we want so badly. And some people can be absolutely miserable because they can't afford an Yves Saint Laurent purse. You know what I mean? They could spend years and years going, I just want this purse. That's all I want, and it's, and what a waste of time to, or like a fast car, like a hot rod, you're driving around in a Kia and you're like, I want a Ferrari. And it's just, these kind of mental trappings can create real and experienced anguish for certain individuals. You know what I mean? So it's like, are you happy with what you have? And, if what you have gets you to where you need to go, can you be okay with that? Or do you never park at the valet because your car is going to backfire? When I was young growing up, my mom had this Honda Civic. It used to backfire all the time and it would embarrass my sister and I. And so when we go to the grocery store in Atlanta at the A&P, she'd back it up right against their big, huge concrete wall on the side of the building and turn it off so the backfire would echo really loud. And she would intentionally embarrass. Now I appreciate that. I appreciate that she did that now, because it taught me a great lesson that it doesn't matter what you drive. It only matters that you get to where you're trying to go. Right. So the true student seeks to lift himself from the exoteric body upward spiritually until he joins the esoteric group, which, without a lodge on the physical plane of nature, is far greater than all the lodges of which it is the central fire. So what that means is that the inner lodge, so to speak. So in the information, you have the lodge that Freemasons go to. Anybody can Google and learn a bit more about this if you're interested. There's a lot of like really, really ridiculous conspiracy theories out there about Masons too. I can tell you that. But the point is that, we want to focus on that building of the internal lodge that our mind exists in, that our spirit body exists in. So you have, spirit, mind, soul, and body. And you could say the soul is that incarnate energy that you could say comes from, like an earthly force. It's that natural energy that is just in all of us, that animates the body. The spirit, you could say, is that energy that animates the mind and the creative principles that we hopefully all live by. And the mind itself should essentially be a blank canvas that we repaint every single day. Because we take all of those mental trappings that we grow up with in life, and we collect them into this big cluttered mess, and walk around with that. My acting teacher, Manu, he always said, when you step on stage, leave your baggage at the door. And it took me a while to really, really get what he meant by that, because again, he was teaching sort of this spiritual way of approaching the creation of a character, and in abandoning all of those things that are keeping us bound to this old version of ourselves. We're not really able to recreate ourselves in a new unit of time. And it was important for Manu that he stressed to us, his students, that we always wanted to be a blank slate when it came to creating a character. And that also goes to creating, our own character, who we are in our life. And that's what this book is about: creating a character for the stage or life, which is based on Manu's teachings. And you can get that on lulu.com, LULU.com. Just search my name, it'll pop up along with some other interesting things. Who's done? Oh, so it goes here. Let me pick up at the top of this sentence. So the true Mason realizes that the work of the mystery schools in the world is of an inclusive rather than an exclusive nature, and that the only lodge which is broad enough to express his ideals is one whose dome is in the heavens, whose pillars are the corners of creation, whose checkerboard floor is composed of the crossing currents of human emotion, and whose altar is the human heart. So again, it's by thinking with the heart. This, you could say that we have our empathy for things. And I don't know, you'd be speaking. Well, hello everybody. I'm sorry. I know I don't look at the comments too much over here, but I see you over there out of the corner of my eye. And I just want you to know that I appreciate everybody who's out there chiming in and talking. And if anybody has some kind of question that they throw up there, I'll make sure that I look over there, or Rick will jump in and go, "Hey, read that question, you dummy." And I'll jump over and read it and see if I can answer it for you. But there's so much information to try and get to. I'm going to sort of,
I
burn through.
I would never call you a dummy, at least not above my breath.
You're welcome to call me a dummy anytime you like. I take it as a
I would
compliment.
never do that.
So, if he would fill his place in the plan, he must not enter this sacred study for what he can get out of it, but what he may learn how to serve. Oh, but that he may learn how to serve. So again, when you come to this kind of realization that we are something greater than just this meat body with a bunch of emotions and needs and wants and desires, that's just traipsing through life like a gargoyle, right? There's different experiences that can happen, that when you find that there is this creative force out there you can tap into, well, then you have the realization that you can use that power for good or for bad. You can use that same kind of charisma that comes out of being naturally inclined to being a spiritualized individual, that will come across as this kind of a potential type of charisma or an attractive personality. But somebody who has bad intentions can mock up that kind of personality and get over on you. I'm not referring to all the evangelists out there, but some of them, especially that guy with the crazy eyes. I don't know if you've seen him. I don't know his name, but every time I see him, it terrifies me. In Freemasonry is concealed the mystery of creation, the answer to the problem of existence, and the path the student must tread in order to join those who are really the living powers behind the thrones of modern national and international affairs. A Mason is not appointed, he is evolved, and he must realize that the position he holds in the exoteric lodge means nothing compared to his position in the spiritual lodge of life. His duty is to build and evolve the sacred teachings of his own being, that nothing but his own purified being can unlock the door to the sealed libraries of human consciousness. And again, that just goes into this idea that when we can detach ourselves from all of the crap that we're dealing with every day, and believe me, all of us are dealing with a lot of crap, but when we can have a moment of detachment from all of that and experience that moment of peace and serenity, that right there, that's what we want to hang on to as hard as we possibly can, and try to ride that wave, because it's always going to crash eventually. But if we are spiritually inclined enough, we can handle the crash a lot better than if we're already emotionally spent. You know what I mean? Oh, I hear the snoot outside. I hear Theo. If that door moves, that means he's coming in. I can hear his little lips smacking back there. Uh, his karmic responsibilities increase with his opportunities. Those who are surrounded with knowledge and opportunity for self improvement and make nothing of these opportunities are the lazy workmen who will be spiritually, if not physically, cast out of the temple of the king. So, again, it's, when we have these realizations that there is a greater way to experience life, and though it takes discipline and time and attention, then and if we don't do that, if we know it's possible and we say, forget it, that's like one of the greatest crimes we can commit against ourselves, is to not reach for that brightest star. You know what I'm saying? Someone's calling in. Someone wants the puppy. That's all they want. Theo, come on in. You can push the door open, buddy. He's not feeling very well today. He's done 4 poopies. And I feed him very good food. Let me tell you that. I care about this guy probably more than I care about myself. He eats the best. But I don't know what he's gotten into today, but he's a little down. He's a little depressed. He's a little sad. So if he comes in, we're all going to have to cheer him up. So they are, or should be, philosophers, sages, and sober-minded individuals who have dedicated themselves upon the Masonic altar and vowed by all they hold dear that the world shall be better, wiser, and happier because they have lived. Those who enter these mystic rites and pass between the pillars seeking either prestige or commercial advantage are blasphemers. And while in this world we may count them as successful, they are the cosmic failures who have barred themselves out from the true right, whose keynote is unselfishness and whose workers have renounced the things of earth. And this gets into a lot of the kind of dialectic materialism that we live under, that the idea that we're given now is success and happiness means the biggest house, the fastest car, the private jet, the yacht, the nicest clothes, all of these trappings. And it becomes, kind of a selfish, look at me, look what I got. This is, I got it all right here. And, whoop-de-woo. And they're just collecting things. They're like hoarders, and in reality, if you took all of the wealthiest people on planet Earth and you taught them this type of philosophy, the amount of good that they could do in the world by simplifying their own footprint in life and by giving back to the world. How many more businesses could they start? How many more charities could they donate to? Now, granted, a lot of charities, you have to know, only about 5 to 10% of the money that gets donated actually goes to those charities. The rest goes to the board members of the charities for their rich, fat, stuffy pockets. It's very sad, but it's unfortunately true. Good one, Rick. I love that. That was awesome. So we are the builders of the Universal Temple. The dead builder will rise from his tomb, and the lost word, so long concealed from the profane, will blaze forth again with the power that makes all things new. So the idea of the dead builder is that when we're unrealized of this higher plane of consciousness and creative thought, when we're unrealized of that, then we are the dead builder. But when you suddenly wake up to the fact that we every single day can wake up and start our lives anew and be open to a new way of experiencing life, then there's a massive change that can occur. And you can't open that door. You know what? Hold on, guys. Let me open the door for this little rascal. We can take a second. Come on in, sir.
Insert Jeopardy theme music here.
There we go. Come on
in.
Theo's in the house. If he's feeling better, I'll try and pick him up here and show you guys just how absolutely adorable and fluffy and wonderful he is. But he's a little down in the dumps today. I don't know what to do about that. It looks like I have a mullet. That's interesting. So here on chapter 2, the candidate. There comes a time in the growth of every living individual thing when it realizes with dawning consciousness that it is a prisoner. And I just, I had to outline that one little saying right there, because it is this realization that we are trapped in this kind of prison. I mean, it's just true. There's even a theory that the planet Earth is a prison planet, and that's what it was initially. If you believe in kind of ancient aliens type theories and all of that, that the human population that exists here were brought from another star system and placed here because this was a planet for the unruly, and we were just left here, right? Yes, poor baby. I'm telling you, poor
that
little
would
guy.
actually explain a lot. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it would explain a lot, wouldn't it? Hey, buddy. He needs some love and attention. You want to come up here and say hello real quick? I know everybody's dying to see you. Come here, pal. Oh, yeah. There you go. Look at him. Look at that guy. Oh, who's the most magical creature that ever lived? Theodore Corgyvelt is. He's the rough rider. Yep, that's right. Theodore Corgyvelt. He's a star. Ooh, there you go, buddy. And yes, he's wonderful. See, Hamlet said Denmark is a prison. The eternal prisoner is life incarnate within the dark stone walls of matter, and not a single ray to brighten the blackness of his faith. This is the eternal prisoner who, through the ceaseless ages of cosmic unfoldment, through forms unnumbered and species now unknown, strives eternally to liberate himself and gain self-conscious expression, the birthright of every created thing. So that's just expressing this idea that we can become so automatic in our tendencies in life. Wake up feeling the same, make our coffee the same way, put on our shoes the same way, brush our teeth with the same hand, use the same toothpaste we've been using for 15 years. It's whatever the case may be. Even going shopping, it's like sometimes I'll go down the aisle and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to try a different soap today, or I'm going to get this non-fluoride, preferably toothpaste, or trying different things out, different coffee brands. I constantly, when I go to the store, I usually go like, okay, let's see what's on sale for buy one get one free today, and the coffee pods, and I'll just grab whichever one has that, and experience some different coffee. So just try to keep things shifting and changing a little bit, not so I'm constantly stuck on that hamster wheel, right? And when we start to become more and more self-aware of the habitual nature that we live under, we can break that mold and free ourselves from those mental trappings, from that kind of internal prison. So you could say you have an external prison, that this planet that we're stuck on, and this universe that we can only look at, and what is this experience. And then we have our internal type of prison, that we're trapped in this mind. and it's our mind, and it's the mind that we're going to have to live in from now until we let go of this body and move on to whatever happens next. So how do we make the best out of it? How do we stay in the aesthetic, mindset, and then let those that kind of aesthetic way of thinking uh, manifest in our behavior, and even how we regulate our space around us, um just, I mean, do we make our bed? I don't make my bed every day, but I try to make it every day, and I almost make it every day, because there's nothing nicer than walking in and seeing a nice made bed. It makes me feel good. It's just little things. I keep a very clean kitchen, and I'm a pretty orderly guy. I do get a little ripe every now and then, but hey, don't we all, right? But how do we take care of ourselves is part of yeah, same. How do we take care of ourselves is part of that expression. When you can see somebody who takes care of themselves, it doesn't mean you're a good person, because you look at Klaus Schwab. That guy has the nicest suits. He's always nice and clean, looks like he just got done shampooing with Irish Spring or whatever, and but he's one of the most evil villains you could imagine on planet Earth. So I'm not saying that just because you have an outward appearance of, you could have the most dirtiest, stinkiest hippie, with hobo feet out there, and he's the nicest, friendliest, most special person you've ever met in your life. So I'm not saying. I'm just saying, hippie, take a shower, okay? We could all we could all gain from that. But so matter is the what was that?
Damn hippies.
Yeah, damn hippie. Matter is the tomb. It is the dead wall of substance, not yet awakened into the pulsating energies of spirit. The spirit within cries out for freedom, freedom to be, to express, to manifest its true place in the great plan of cosmic unfoldment. It is this great yearning within the heart of man which sends him slowly onward toward the gate of the temple. It is in this inner urge for greater understanding and greater light which brought us being through the law of necessity, the great cosmic Masonic lodge dedicated to those seeking union with the powers of light, that their prison walls might be removed. This shell cannot be discarded. It must be raised into union with the life. Each dead, crystallized atom in the human body must be set vibrating and spinning to a higher rate of consciousness. I mean, dude, this guy is the best. I love Manly P. Hall. I mean, the way he says things is so dynamic. And that line right there, each dead crystallized atom in the human body must be set vibrating and spinning to a higher rate of consciousness. And that goes with that feeling that I think all of us have had when we have a moment where everything seems aligned, or even when we're just on vacation and we've let go of all of the trappings of our regular everyday life. And I don't know where you are. Hopefully you're not on a Carnival cruise, but I don't know where you are on vacation. Maybe, you're at a KOA campground. I highly recommend, or at a beachfront hotel, or a little cabana, or just up in the woods in a cabin, or whatever the case may be. Maybe you're having a personal vacation just at home, and you're just got the phone off, the TV off, everything's silent. You're just humming and hawing around, throw on an old LP. It's in those moments where suddenly we feel like, wow, it's that kind of childlike moment of I mean, everybody, you remember when you were a kid, you didn't care about anything. Mom took care of everything. Dad took care of everything. All you had to do was just wake up, and there was school. Okay, we'll get that. There was school, but it's that same childlike, yeah, the kismet. It's that same childlike vibe and sensation where every single molecule in our body starts to vibrate with positive energy and excitement and creativity. And if when we were young, someone could give us a pile of rocks, and next thing you know, we got one half of the rocks is one army, another half is another army, and we got a whole battle going. Or maybe we build a castle out of it, or whatever the case may be. It's that creative way of thinking that can get us out of our everyday grind, so to speak. The expression of man through constructive thought, emotion, and action liberates the higher nature from bodies which, in their crystallized states, are incapable of giving him his natural opportunities. In Freemasonry, this crystallized substance of matter is called the grave. This is the grave within which the lost builder lies, and with him are the plans of the temple and the master's word. And it is this builder, our grand master, whom we must seek and raise from the dead. I can hear Hiram Abiff, my grandmaster, crying out in his agony, the agony of life hidden within the darkness of its prison walls, seeking for the expression which I have denied, laboring to bring closer the day of its liberation. And I have learned to know that I am responsible for those walls. So Hiram Abiff is in Freemasonry. In the Old Testament, it's suggested that he was one of the builders of the Temple of Solomon. It's a very short-lived character in biblical references, but in Masonic lore, he is the architect, the designer of Solomon's Temple. And in the philosophy of Freemasonry, there's these three evil workmen who want to know the secret of how he builds things. And it's Jubilai, Jubilo, and Jubilem, and they kill him and bury him in the desert, because he refuses to tell them the secret of the Creator. And those three criminals, you could say, are like, thought, emotion, and action. I think it talks about that later on in this. And when we're in a negative space, we are going to destroy our own creator within, and that creator will be buried in this kind of grave of the mundane and listless existence that is potentially the outcome of our lives if we don't wake up, right? Something about the SG1's Fallout had a whole convo about you just a few hours ago. Glad to catch you all. Oh, thanks for coming, man. I appreciate that. You are welcome. Oh, and you watched Dragon Wasps. Yes, I got some funny stories about Dragon Wasps. I got to do a rewrite on that. So there's some stuff in there that I created. That's why it's funny. Anyway, so these three may be called, oh yeah, here we go. These three may be called thought, desire, and action. When purified and transmuted, they are three glorious avenues through which may manifest the great life power of the three kings, the glowing builders of the cosmic lodge, manifesting in this world as spiritual thought, constructive emotion, and useful daily labor in the various places and positions where we find ourselves while carrying on the master's work. The flaming triangle. When crystallized and perverted, they form a triangular prison. First in the mind is one of the three kings, or rather, we shall say, a channel through which he manifests. For King Solomon is the power of the mind, which, perverted, becomes a destroyer who tears down with the very powers which nourish and build. The right application of thought, when seeking the answer to the cosmic problem of destiny, liberates man's spirit, which soars above the concrete through that wonderful power of mind with its dreams and its ideals. This light enables us to seek more clearly the mystery of creation and to find with greater certainty our place in the great plan. And, again, it's just, I know I'm repetitive about it, but what it's suggesting here is that when we do come to kind of a self-realization that we don't have to be trapped in this continual pattern of behavior every single day, and our relationships are all based on specific patterns and expectations and thoughts and memories and all of that. We might see somebody that we remember from high school that was the biggest jerk and the bully, and we just hated him, and he was misery and blah. And then you see him 30 years later and you're like, oh, there's that jerk again. And not knowing that he's gone through a massive transformation and now he's the nicest guy in the world, right? I mean, these things are possible. So, or he might still just be a big bully. But it's in what we do with ourselves. How do we he does write this really well. Manly P. Hall is one of the best. He's one of the best of the best. You can't get over that. But how do we, speaking of writing, how do we rewrite our everyday life experience? How do we wake up in the morning with a blank page, even though we're going to the same job, we're driving the same car, we're drinking the same coffee, we're making the same eggs and bacon? How do we do it as if it's the first time we've ever done it? And how do we, take that drive to work as if we've never taken that drive before? And how do we connect up with our external, world around us in order to really, are we coming up on, oh wow, we're at 59 minutes.
Yes,
Man,
sir.
it goes so fast, everybody. It goes so fast. Look, hey, we almost got halfway through on this one too. I tell you what, if you guys hit me up on X about this particular book, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry, I highly suggest you order it from the Philosophical Research Society. And if you guys hit me up on X and let me know, we'll finish this book next week and keep going from there, because it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. But thank you all for being here. Thank you, KLRN Radio, and thank you everybody out there who's tuning in. This is a lot of fun for me, and I'm learning stuff, and you're learning stuff, and we're doing it together.
All right, folks, don't forget you can follow him at I am Corin Nimick on X. You can follow us at KLRN Radio. If you are so inclined, please hang out for the rest of the programming tonight. We have 2 more shows after this one. I got to clear the deck so they can get started. Want to thank everybody for hanging out with us. You hit almost 1,300 on Mother's Day night, sir. So you're doing pretty damn good, in my opinion.